A security-focused operating system is a hacker's best friend, as it helps them to detect the weaknesses in computer systems or computer networks. It's time to pass the archaic Windows versus Linux discussion and switch over to some advanced operating systems dedicated to pen testing and ethical hacking. Hey guys, I'm Archana from Edureka, and I welcome you to this session on Kali Linux, a leading Linux distribution in penetration testing and ethical hacking. So guys, without any delay, let's go ahead and take a look at topics that we will be talking about today. So we will begin by having a brief discussion on history of Kali Linux. Then we'll explore different installation options offered by Kali Linux and also discuss step-by-step procedure on how to install Kali Linux on operating system. And finally, once we install Kali Linux successfully on operating system, we'll explore different Kali Linux tools to understand how powerful Kali Linux can be. So I hope agenda was clear to you guys. Let's get started then. So whether you want to pursue a career in information security, or you're already working as a security professional, or if you're just interested in this specific field for fun, a decent Linux distro that suits your purpose is always a must. Well, currently there are countless Linux distros meant for various purposes. In this session, we will be discussing one of the top Linux distribution meant for ethical hacking, which is Kali Linux. So let's get started then. Kali Linux is the industry's leading Linux distribution in penetration testing and ethical hacking. It is a distribution that offers tons and tons of hacking and penetration tools and software by default. It's widely recognized in all parts of the world, even among Windows users who may not know even what Linux is are using Kali Linux these days. But guys, while to be precise, Kali Linux was developed by Offensive Security as rewrite of Backtrack. Now you might be wondering what Backtrack is, right? Backtrack was a Linux distribution that focused on security. It was used for digital forensics and penetration testing. Its first version was released on May 26, 2006. And in the subsequent years, different versions of Backtrack were released with updates and advanced features. And finally, on March 2013, the Offensive Security team rebuilt entire Backtrack architecture around Debian distribution and released it under name Kali Linux. So that's how Kali Linux came into existence. So guys, now you know how Kali Linux was introduced to this world. But the question is, why should you choose Kali Linux when you have other choices like Parrot, Blackbox, Black Arc, and many more? Let me list out few reasons as to why Kali Linux is the best. First and foremost, Kali Linux offers more than 600 penetration testing tools from various fields of security and forensics. Secondly, it offers multi-language support. Although penetration tools tend to be written in English, Kali includes multilingual support. This way, more users can operate in their native language and locate the tools they need for the job that they want to do on Kali Linux. Moving on, Kali Linux is actually built in secure environment. Actually, Kali team is made up of small group of individuals. Those are the only ones who can commit packages and interact with repositories, all of which is done using multiple secure protocols. So basically, it is built on a secure environment. And moving on, one of the striking features of Kali Linux is that it supports wireless devices. It is built in such a way that it supports as many wireless devices as it possibly can. This way, it runs properly on wide variety of hardware and is compatible with numerous USB and other wireless devices very easily. Kali Linux, like Backtrack, is completely free of charge and always will be. You will never ever have to pay to use Kali Linux. And finally, Kali Linux offers you customization option. So if you're not comfortable with current Kali Linux features, you can customize Kali Linux the way you want. So guys, I guess the reasons which we just discussed are enough for you to start using Kali Linux, right? Let's proceed then. So apart from all the benefits which we discussed earlier, Kali Linux offers different installation options. One way of installing Kali Linux is by making a Kali bootable USB drive. This is one of the fastest way of installing Kali Linux and most favorable as well. It's favorable because it's non-destructive. So if you're using USB to install, then no changes need to be made to your host system's hard drive, right? So it's non-destructive. It's portable. You can carry USB wherever you go, and it's easy to install. And lastly, it's potentially persistent. You can configure your Kali Linux live USB drive to have persistent storage so that data you collect is saved across different reboots. So suppose you have installed it and you've performed something and you have some data which is stored. If you want to use that data for next time as well, you can use persistent storage option with live USB installation process. Moving on, there is Kali Linux hard disk install. Installing Kali Linux on your computer using a hard disk is an easy process. But you should make sure that your computer has compatible hardware with Kali Linux so that the process of installation goes on very smoothly. You can also install Kali Linux alongside your operating system as dual boot. It could be Windows or Mac, but you should exercise caution during setup process so that installation of Kali Linux don't mess up with your actual host operating system, which is Windows or Mac. You can use virtualization software such as VMware or VirtualBox to install Kali Linux as well. As for this session, I'll show you how to install Kali Linux on VMware. Guys, apart from these, you can also set up Kali Linux on ARM devices. ARM usually refers to advanced RISC machines like Raspberry Pi, Qubit Truck, Trim Slice, and many more. So if you want to know more about how to use Kali Linux on these ARM devices and many other installation options, you can actually explore them in the official Kali Linux website documentation. So go ahead, guys, just don't stick to one way of installing it, explore different way of installing it and start using it. So guys, that's it with the theory part of the session. Let's go ahead and install Kali Linux and explore different tools. So guys, if you want to install Kali Linux, the first thing you should do is download an ISO file or image of Kali Linux. For that, you need to go to official Kali Linux website, which is www.kali.org. And under that, there's downloads. Under download, you have download Kali Linux option. Just click on that. As you can see, it'll take you to a page where you can see different download options. So let's explore this page. It says Kali Linux 64-bit, 32-bit. So basically, if you click on this torrent or HTTP link, it will download an ISO file for you. Suppose if you want to learn how to install Kali Linux from step 1 till last step, then it's better that you install ISO file and start installing Kali Linux using that ISO file. But if you want to skip the entire process, just want to use the image or start using Kali Linux, then you can go for this option. It says Kali Linux 64-bit VM for VMware and or 32-bit VMware or 64-bit VirtualBox and 32-bit VirtualBox. Since we're already learning, let's just use ISO file and learn how to install Kali Linux using ISO file. So mine is 64-bit, so I'm just clicking on Kali Linux 64-bit. I've already downloaded it. So you can either download torrent version of it or HTTP version of it. So yeah, I'm going to skip that part. So I hope you can download without any problems. Okay then. Make sure you are using either VirtualBox or VMware. I'm using VMware here. So let me go to my VMware. Yeah, here it is, VMware Workstation Pro. So as you can see on my VMware, I already have a Kali Linux and Metasploitable 2 as well. Yeah, anyway, on VMware, if you have installed ISO file, then if you want to install Kali Linux, then you can click on create a new virtual machine option and start installing it from beginning. And suppose if you have installed an image which is suitable for VMware or VirtualBox, in this case VMware, then you can just click on open a virtual machine here and attach the image. As you can see, it is a Metasploitable image. If I click on that and click on open, then the image will be installed here. Well, I'm just showing you how to do it if you've downloaded the image. Anyway, since we have installed ISO file and extracted it, let's use create a new virtual machine option here. So let's go for typical. The difference here between typical and custom is that typical, it skips most of the steps. So after installing, we can make additional settings. But if you want to make all the settings before installation itself, then you can use custom here. But let's use typical. Click on next. And here it says install disk image file ISO option. It mentions here. So browse. I have it in my local disk D. So here it is. Kali Linux, this is the version. So if you're wondering if this is an ISO file or not, let me just click on properties and show you that it is an ISO file. As you can see, it is an ISO file here. So yeah, so just click on that and click on open and click on next. It says select a guest operating system. I want it to be Linux, so Linux distribution, and make sure you click on Linux kernel, whichever it is. If you're using 32-bit, then 32. Well, mine is 64-bit, so I'm just clicking on that and click on next. Here we go, just give it a name. Let's say Kali, and where I want to store it, it says under username, documents, virtual machine Kali. Yeah, sure. And then click on next. So, well, you can assign memory here, let's say 40 GB. Well, if you want to assign lesser than that, you can go ahead and assign lesser than that. You can always make changes later. So next thing, it asks store virtual disk as a single file or split virtual disk into multiple files. I want to choose store virtual disk as a single file so that I won't face problem again with my hard disk later on. Just don't want all the files to be like half the files to be on the one distribution and other half to be on other distribution and all that. So let's just select store virtual disk as a single file here and click on next. So before you click on finish, you can just review whatever you've done. So right now memory is 768 MB. We can always change that. And the network adapter is NAT. Yeah. Well, you haven't customized hardware here, but just okay then. Let's just adjust it before only. Click on customize hardware. So guys, here as for the memory, it totally depends on what you're using 𝐶𝐿/Linux for. If you're using for heavy scanning or interacting with other web application penetration websites like Metasploitable2 and all, you might have to assign more memory. Otherwise, your 𝐶𝐿/Linux system will be very slow. Let me just assign 2 GB here. Yeah, that sounds fine enough. And as for the processors, you can always retain it 1. And as for the number of core processors, I'm assigning 2. If you've already attached ISO file. And network adapter. Here we are using only 𝐶𝐿/Linux. Suppose if you're using Metasploitable2, it's basically another virtual machine which has applications with vulnerabilities if you want to perform web application penetration testing. So in that case, if you use NAT option, both your Metasploitable2 and your 𝐶𝐿/Linux will get same IP address as your host machine if you use NAT option here. So instead of that, you can use bridge connection. Well, as for now, we'll just use NAT only. Moving on, you can just retain default settings. Same for the printer, and as for the display, you can click on accelerated 3D graphics here. And 768 MB is usually the recommended amount of memory that you can use for graphics. And click on close. So you can see the changes have been made here are reflected here as well. So click on finish. So here we go, guys. So there are 2 ways you can power on your 𝐶𝐿/Linux, which we just set up in virtual machine. You can click here, power on this virtual machine option, or you have this option here. We'll just click this. So like I said earlier, if you want to make any changes, you can just click on edit virtual machine settings here and change the memory or the hard disk, processors, or the display setting, anything you want. So let's say I'm satisfied with the current settings I've made, and I'm going to click on power this virtual machine. So guys, as we discussed earlier, we have discussed different installation options, right? As you can see, you have live mode with persistence, live USB mode with encrypted persistence as well. Most of the time you might see the install option here and click on that. But when you click on that, it will take you command line interface. So basically you should interact with Kali operating system using command line interface, which probably may not be a good option if you're just a beginner in 𝐶𝐿/Linux. So always go for graphical install here and click on enter. So it will start mounting storage devices. Here it is on the installation page. It's asking for the language that you want to use. Like I said, Kali supports multiple languages. And suppose if you want to use your native language, you can go ahead and use it. Let's retain English for this demo purpose. So yeah, English, and click enter. It says it's short list of locations based on the language you selected. Let's say United States and American English. I'm just retaining the default settings here. So it'll start detecting ISO file and load installation component here. As you can see, it says load installer components from CD. So guys, entire installation process might take about 6 to 7 minutes. It's detecting network hardware. So if you have successfully completed the first step and second step, it should take you to this page. It's basically the host name it's asking for. So let's just retain it as Kali only. And if you want to give anything else, you can do that. And just click on continue. And next thing it does is it asks you for a domain name. Let's say you have set of virtual machines, and if you're using all virtual machines together, and if you want to assign a domain name for all these virtual machines, you can go ahead and do that. As for now, I'm just leaving it blank and click on continue. Well, since you have set up the username, you'll have to set up root password as well, right? So let's just give it a something. You can give whatever you want and make sure you've given the right one in the second time as well. And click on continue here. So the best thing is it even asks for the date and time settings as well. If you have made any error here, you can always go and set your date and time after your 𝐶𝐿/Linux is installed and booted up. So let's just say Eastern. Let's say Eastern. I'm just using that and click on continue. It says configuring the clock. It's detecting partition, disk partition. Well, basically disk partition is nothing that it's just if you want to retain your entire virtual machine or 𝐶𝐿/Linux on use an entire disk, or if you want to partition half disk for some other purpose and all that, you can just always go ahead with guided use entire disk option. Click continue. Then it says manually select the device. So this is the virtual machine 42.9 GB VMware where the storage partition will be done. So I'm going to click on enter. Yeah, like I said, I want all partitions to be done in one file. So click. It says if you're sure, then you can just go ahead and click enter or continue so that the partition is done. Continue. And it's asking if you want to write the changes to disk whenever some changes are made. Definitely yes. So click on yes and continue. So it'll start partition and install the virtual machine. It's going to take a while. So I'm going to return to you guys once the installation is done here. So yeah, guys, it took a while, but it's asking for the next step. That's configure the packet manager. So basically it's asking whenever there's an update of your Kali Linux image, if you want to do it immediately as in automatically, or if you want to specify update as well. So let me just say no and click on continue. It says configuring the packet manager, installing packet manager and configuring. And after installing packet manager and configuring, it says install grub bootloader on a hard disk. Yeah, it's installed. It was fast. Then it's asking if you want to install grub bootloader to the master boot record or not. Basically, whether you want to use your master boot record or not, let's just say yes and continue. It says enter device manually. This is the one which we want to use. Continue. And the installation of grub bootloader will continue. It shouldn't take fast. And it says finishing the installation. So finally, guys, it says installation is complete. So it's time to boot your new system. Make sure to remove the installation media. So like I said, if you've used USB or hard disk or anything of that sort, this is the time that you'll have to remove. But right now we're not using anything. So let's just say continue. So guys, yeah, once the installation is complete properly, it should take you to this name. So if you remember, you've given username and password during the installation process. But if you're logging in for the first time, basically just give it as root. Otherwise, you'll get an error. Later on, you can change your username, password. So yeah, guys, here we go. So this is your Kali Linux page, as in the home page. As you can see under applications, you have different kind of applications. You have information gathering. You have vulnerability analysis, web application analysis, where you perform web application penetration testing. Password attack, that's if you want to know the password of a login page or any website or as such, and database assessment tools as well. Then you have wireless attacks, tools which you can use to perform wireless attacks. The most popular one is your 𝐓𝐫𝐚𝐢𝐳. And you have sniffing and spoofing. If you want to change your MAC address and all that, you can use. So we have MAC changer here. Today we'll be exploring MAC changer. And you have exploitation tools such as proxy chains and forensic tools as well. Then you have social engineering tools as well, and different kind of system services. Then the most popular one is you have beef start and beef stop. So guys, I hope at this point you should be able to install Kali Linux without any errors. Well, if you face any kind of errors while installing, or if the image is not proper or any kind of errors, you can post them in the comment section. We'll definitely get back to you. So yeah, now that we know how to install Kali Linux on VMware, the procedure is very similar on VirtualBox as well. So you don't have to worry about it. But I suggest that once you get to know how to install from step 1 till last step, go ahead and use Kali Linux images which are there for virtual machine and VirtualBox, which we saw in the official website earlier. So yeah, let's get to exploring different tools here. So as for today, we'll be exploring about 4 to 5 tools. Let me go back to slides now. So guys, the first step of ethical hacking or web application penetration testing is anonymity. Imagine if a pen tester or a hacker, if he didn't take any steps to anonymize himself, he would certainly get caught by firewalls or digital forensic investigators or internet service provider logging checkers, etc. Right? It's definitely not good. So there are different tools or services that you can use to anonymize yourself. As for the basics, you can use set up proxies, you can use virtual private network, and some kind of IP headers. So as I said earlier, first step of ethical hacking is keeping yourself anonymous. And you can use proxies, VPN, some kind of IP headers, or Tor. But mostly there are 2 popular ways you can do that. You can use proxy chains, which I showed you earlier in different kind of tools offered by Kali Linux. So basically proxy chain, it's up numerous proxies and it will use a service called Tor to deliver you anonymity so that it'll become more difficult to pinpoint your actual IP address. And secondly, this service called AnonSurf. It is a really good script that was first made by Parrot Security, but now it's been edited so that it will work in Kali Linux as well. So what I want to say here is that it's not by default installed in Kali Linux, but that's not a problem at all. You can clone it using Git. So it is an easy and effective way to remain anonymous on your Kali Linux system. Let's explore AnonSurf more. Let's go back to Kali Linux. Let me just click on the Firefox here. So like I said earlier, guys, it's not there by default. Before that, let's just go back to applications here. So under applications, we did see proxy chain, right? Under post exploitation, we have proxy chains. Like I said, proxy chain is offered by Kali Linux, so it's installed by default. But compared to AnonSurf, it's quite complex. So let's just go with AnonSurf today. So yeah, let me go to Firefox and search for AnonSurf. You search for AnonSurf in the web server, and it's most probably almost all the time it's the first link that you find. So click on that. It's the GitHub link. And if you scroll down here, it says clone and download. You will have to copy this link, Control C. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. And let's just go back to terminal. In the terminal, you'll have to use Git. And before you ask, Git is by default installed in Kali Linux. So yeah, clone and copy the one which you just, as in paste the one which you just copied and click. Well, it says destination path Kali AnonSurf is already there. That's because I've already installed. So just click ls and you can find Kali Linux folder here. Here it is. So just open the folder AnonSurf and enter. And under ls, and you'll have to check for the files under Kali AnonSurf. You have a file which says shell. Basically, it's a shell script to install AnonSurf. So what you do, just install it, installer.sh, and just click on enter. I'm not going to do this because it's going to take a while. So if you just do that, it's going to install AnonSurf on your Kali Linux. So let me clear the stuff and cd go back. So guys, now AnonSurf is properly installed. So if you want to make sure if it is properly installed or not, just say AnonSurf start. Well, I made a mistake. AnonSurf and start. So like I said earlier, guys, AnonSurf offers anonymous mode through Tor. Well, if you're wondering what Tor is, it protects you by bouncing your communications around a distributed network of relays which are run by volunteers all around the world. So basically what it does is, it prevents somebody from watching your internet connection, from learning what sites you're visiting, and it also prevents the sites you visit from learning about your physical location. If you're using proxy chains, you'll have to install Tor separately and start linking proxy chains with Tor so that they work together. But the good thing with AnonSurf is that you don't have to install Tor. So as you can see, it says Tor is not running, so it's starting it for you. So AnonSurf basically starts Tor for you by itself. So if you want to know all the commands under AnonSurf, just type for help command. So as you can see, it's a service or script which is released by Parrot Security. So as you can see, it says Parrot. And yeah, you basically have all the commands which are self-explanatory, right? It says start. Once you use this option, it'll start system-wide anonymity and stop if you want to stop using anonymous mode. Restart. Instead of clicking start and stop again, you can just click on restart to start the entire process again. Change. Suppose if you want to change your IP address, you can just use this change. Status. So once you start AnonSurf, if you want to check the status of AnonSurf, then you can use this option. And then there is my IP. Yeah, let's just ignore these two services for now. Okay. So let me try AnonSurf start again. Or let me just check the status since I've already started it earlier. AnonSurf status. As you can see, let me maximize the screen. It says starting anonymizing overlay network for TCP. Yeah, it's active since the date and time. So yeah, Control Z. And let me clear the stuff for you. Now let's say I want to check the IP which has been assigned to me. Then AnonSurf my IP. Click enter. It may take a while, but it'll show you the IP address which has been assigned to you. As you can see, it says this is the IP address. Well, you can do this number of times. Now we'll have to get back to Firefox terminal to see where the IP address actually belongs to. So you will have to search for check for DNS leaks. And here, DNS leak test. Click on that. So guys, as you can see, this is the IP address which has been assigned to me. And right now, though I'm not in Netherlands, it says from Netherlands. Well, you can try this again and again. So like I said, the first step when you do anything of this sort, as in web penetration testing or learning how to hack and all that stuff, it's best that you set yourself anonymous before you start doing things. So yeah, we've explored our first tool, which is AnonSurf, though it's not native tool of Kali Linux. It's a tool which is usable in Kali Linux. So yeah, there we go, guys. Now let me get back to terminal. Well, you can do this again. Let's say AnonSurf start. And let me check my IP this time. Okay, let me just use change here. Haven't changed, right? Change. So as you can see, it didn't work here because I just started without stopping it before. So I've been assigned with the same IP which was there before. So change. Yeah, it's forced to change the nodes. Let me clear the stuff here. And my IP. As you can see, the IP address assigned to me is different this time. I can go ahead again, check for DNS leaks. It'll definitely show me different place. So yeah, guys, that's how you make yourself anonymous. Either you can use proxy chains or AnonSurf. Well, you can always go ahead and use AnonSurf. It's basically easy. So guys, yeah, there we go. And let me show you one more tool. Our applications under sniffing and spoofing. There's something called MAC changer here, right? Sorry about that. Yeah, MAC changer. Well, the objective of MAC changer is to change or fake an original network card's hardware MAC address. Let me tell it to you again. So the main aim here is you will either want to change or fake an original network card's hardware MAC address. But if you ask me, it's not as powerful as AnonSurf or proxy chains, but you can use it very comfortably with local networks like your office network or home network or your personal network. But if you want to perform very huge scans over network and all, it's not recommended. Anyway, let's see how to change MAC address using MAC changer on Kali Linux. So go back to terminal. And like I said earlier, MAC changer is by default installed in Kali Linux. So just click MAC changer and help. Yeah, and like I said earlier, again, the options are self-explanatory. So you have different options here. You have -A to set random, as in to change the MAC address, and -S, which prints the MAC address which you just changed. And what else is there? Yeah, the version, print version, and exit. So yeah, well, we'll be exploring 2 to 3 options here. Firstly, let's just check for the current MAC address, for which we'll be using -S command. So MAC changer, -S. Oh, it says options device. Yeah, we've missed the device. So before that, let me clear the screen. If config. So right now it's the network card which my Kali Linux using is /0. So that's my device name. Let's go back to MAC changer again. MAC changer, help, and click. So yeah, here we go. So, well, I think it's not visible to you guys properly, right? Let me clear the screen. Yeah. MAC changer, -S, device name was /0, right? Click. As you can see, it shows me 2 MAC addresses, current MAC address and permanent MAC address. Guys, remember one thing, this permanent MAC address belongs to your network interface card, that's /0, which currently the device which we just checked the MAC address for. Now suppose this MAC address which you can see here, it basically specifies as the address of the device which you're using. So the first 3 digits here, they belong to manufacturer, and these are the things which you're going to change, the last 3 digits. So let's say MAC changer, and -A is the option which you want to use to change the IP address. So MAC changer, -A and /0. So as you can see, the current MAC address, permanent MAC address, and the new MAC address that's been assigned is completely different from the current and the permanent MAC address. And like I said, the first 3 digits display the manufacturer of your device. And here by default, it'll assign you some default manufacturer. It says newcomsystems.inc. Now, if you want to check if the MAC address has been properly changed or not, again, use the -S command and click. As you can see right now, the current MAC address and the permanent MAC address are not same. So our current MAC address has been changed and the manufacturer of our current MAC address is newcomsystems.inc. So there you go, guys. Like I said, it's not as powerful as AnonSurf, so it won't keep you anonymous like for the entire network or something, but it's good for the local networks such as office networks or home networks. So you can go ahead and do that. So if you want to remove all the changes which you just made, the command that you have to use is -G. So MAC changer. And here I go, -P. Anyway, well, not to make mistakes, let's just type help. The -G command is not there at all. Well, -P, it stays reset to original permanent hardware MAC. So yeah, -P. Now let me check again by using -S. As you can see, my current MAC address has been reset to the actual settings. So there you go, guys. Now you know how to use MAC changer to change MAC address whenever you need it. So by finding out the manufacturer of network interface card, you can find out who actually is using the device. So it's important that you remain yourself anonymous, whether you're using a small network like your home network or office network, or if you're using a huge network. Well, if it's for huge purposes, then you can always go ahead and use anon surf and proxy chains. So there you go, guys. We are done with our second tool, which is MAC changer. In the previous sessions by Edureka under cybersecurity, I've used two other applications which are usually burp suite and what was the other one? SQL map. So if you want to know more about those services as well, you can go ahead and look into the web application security video. The video is all about how to perform an SQL injection and web application penetration testing. So basically there I used SQL map, which usually comes here. Let me just show that to you. Yeah. Under web application analysis, you can see SQL map here. You can use SQL map to find out the vulnerabilities that are present in your application. I used application which was made for penetration testing, and I found out the vulnerabilities in that application using SQL map, and I extracted the information I want. So if you want to know more about SQL map, you can go ahead and watch the video. Well, I have specified the use of SQL map here as well. So yeah, there you go. Then in the same video, I've used one more tool called burp suite. It's basically a graphical tool for testing web application security. It has multiple purposes. So as again, it's a tool which is by default installed in Kali Linux. So you can just click on burp suite here, which should open up. Let's explore different features over there as well. So it says I accept. And yeah, let me just click on temporary project and next. Yeah, I'm going to use default settings because I'm not going to show you how to use it. If you want to know how to use it, like I said, you can again refer to the previous video called Application Security by Edureka. There you will know how to use SQL map as well as proxy. So as you can see, it has different options here. And the main purpose of it is proxy. That is, it operates as a web proxy server or interceptive proxy. So basically what it does is it sits as a man in middle between the browser and the destination web server. This allows interception, inspection, and modification of traffic that is passing it between your browser and your destination web server. And there we go, proxy. We just explored it. Under that, HTTP is the option which you can use to set up proxy. And there's something called a scanner here, right? Yeah, scanner. It's a web application security scanner. It's used for performing automated vulnerability scans on web applications. So if you have any application that's vulnerable, if you perform a scan on it, it will show you all the vulnerable point in that application so that you can exploit those vulnerabilities and start hacking or malicious attack on the application. Then there's an intruder. It performs automated tasks on destination. And there's repeater. It's a simple tool that can be used to manually test an application. While it can be used to modify requests to the server, you can resend them and observe the results. Yeah, there's a sequencer, then there's decoder. It's a tool for transforming encoded data into its canonical form, or the vice versa. That's transforming raw data into various encoded and hashed forms. And then there is comparer. It's usually a tool for performing a comparison, basically a visual difference between any two items of data. Well, you have many other options as well, like extender and alerts and all such. So basically, this is how you can use burp suite for your different purposes. Let's move on to our next tool. Yeah, I want to close it. S. So guys, up to this point, we have explored anon surf and MAC changer as to how to set yourself anonymous while you're doing hacking or web application penetration testing. And the next thing we explored was burp suite. I showed you different services that are available under burp suite and what you can do using them. And I've just mentioned SQL map as well. If you want to know more, like I said earlier, you can refer to application security video by Edureka under cybersecurity playlist. Now moving on, the next step in ethical hacking is that as an ethical hacker, you should know who you are attacking, right? So before attacking, you should gather information about the target, like IP address or other information about website, like different kind of websites or the IP address of the website and as such. Well, there is one popular tool using which you can gather information about your target, which is Nmap. It's a very popular tool. This is a tool which you must know if you're using Kali Linux. Basically, it's a footprinting tool. So let's just see it under applications. You have it under information gathering as well. Nmap, you can see an eye symbol here. Yeah. And you have it under vulnerability analysis as well. It's a footprinting tool that gathers all kind of information about target. And by default, it's installed in Kali Linux. So all you have to do is click Nmap here and enter. And it's going to specify you a whole lot of help options here. Yeah. So it says target specification, You can discover all information about host, scanning techniques, and script scanning again, the detection of operating system, and all that. So like I said, it's a food printing tool that gathers all kind of information about your target. It is supported, basically it's supported in every ethical hacking platform. Now, if you scroll down, well, if you're a learner, if you don't know what Nmap is, if you're seeing it for the first time, if you scroll down, it says it specified 2 or 3 examples asking you what to do. So as you can see here, it says nmap -v command and -a scanname.nmap.org. So basically, -a here actually refers to aggressive scanning. So if you want on just a top scanning, as in just scanning of basic details, they can just use nmap and the website name. But suppose if you want to get a detailed scanning, then you can use -a. We'll be doing both the stuff today here. So guys, like I said earlier, you can't just go ahead and do it on any web application there is on the internet. Well, it's definitely illegal, right? Since this is for the educational purpose, Nmap provides a default website which says scan me, as in it's made for the purpose of learning. So let's just go back to Firefox. It's not open. Let me open the Firefox. Yeah, scanme.nmap.org and click. Yeah, this is it, guys. So you can scan this website any number of times in a day, but it says don't scan for 100 times a day or use this site to your SSH brute force password cracking tool. So basically it says if you do more than 100 times a day, it might not work. It says not to hammer on the server too hard. Basically it means don't use more than 100 times or anything. So basically you can scan this website for vulnerabilities or nmap scanning here. So let me clear the stuff. Yeah, before that, apart from these, you can also see multiple other options here. Well, I forgot to say -v is nothing but you can see it says it's basically the verbose or the version number. It says -v, it increases the verbose level. Or basically it specifies the verbose, which in turn specifies the version number of your operating system or anything as such. Yeah, the Apache server or PHP file, anything that your application using. If you want to know the version number, you can use -v command. And as for A, I already explained, it specifies the aggressive scanning. And there's another option. Suppose if you're using a home network or work network or school network, you have set of IP addresses, right? So instead of scanning one, suppose you want to scan from this range to this range, as in you want to scan from this IP address to this IP address, particular range. Then you can specify using this command here. Now let me clear the stuff and let's scan the scanme.nmap.org. So nmap, scan me. I'm just removing every option there is. I'm just using the basic scan, nmap.org. So guys, yeah, it took a while, but it has returned the scan results. As you can see, it says the latency it has taken for it to scan the entire website is about, this is the latency. And it says it took about 93.56 seconds. And as you can see, it shows that 999.4 ports are closed ports here. And there are about few ports which are open, about 4. As you can see, it says 4. And here it is, this port and both of these ports. Guys, Nmap can scan about 65,000 ports. By every time you use Nmap, by default, it will scan about 1,000 ports. So that's why it took a while for it to scan the website. But like I said, guys, this is the basic thing. And a hacker would definitely not do this because it's a lot of time consuming. And why would he need information about all the ports there is? So he's going to target only on some specific ports that he wants to. For that, like I said earlier, which is nmap-help. So let me just nmap. Sorry about that, guys. Like I said, he uses this format as in the range of IP addresses to know about the ports or the information he wants. So let me go up. So here it is, the scan results. As you can see, it says this is the address of the website, which is scanme.nmap.org. So now if I give this, it should specify the website back, right? So let me copy this stuff, say copy and scroll down. Let me clear the entire thing. Nmap and I'm going to paste. Yeah, click. It is scanned again. It's showing the same information. So it's working. So guys, now you know how powerful Nmap can be. This is just the basic or the scratch of what you can do using Nmap. So basically using this, you can scan any website or you can find information, any information that you want about target. So go ahead, guys. I haven't used -a option, which says aggressive scanning. So if you're doing this after watching this video, then go ahead and use nmap-a and scanme.nmap. If you know how to use it, it's quite simple though. But as for today's session, we won't be discussing THC Hydra. We have another tool, like I said, Medusa. It's also a password cracking tool, very similar to THC Hydra. And it's pre-installed in Kali Linux, so you don't have to install it separately. So guys, as for today's session, I'm using another virtual machine called 𝐑𝐸𝐻𝑇able2. Let me just show you how to install it. So you can just type for 𝐑𝐸𝐻𝑇able2 and you have this sourceforge.net. You can click on that. And here you get a zip file. You can download it and unzip it and store it in the file where you have stored your Kali Linux. So yeah, once you've done that, let's go back to virtual machines. I've already done that and I have Metas Portable powered up. But before you go ahead and get started, just go for the settings part and make sure you have made the network as bridge connection here. So enable bridge connection and click on OK. And same goes for the Kali Linux as well. Since we have two virtual machines powered up here, they might use same IP address because they share the host network, right? So we don't want that to happen. So we're using bridge connection here. So let's go to Metasploitable 2. Let me just maximize the screen for you guys. Yeah. So as you can see, I've already logged in. The username and password is MSFadmin. Anyway, let me just show it you again. Let me just close the machine and power off. Okay, and click on Metasploitable 2. So as you can see, it's ready and it's asking for login. The login address is MSFadmin and same goes for the password. So let me try MSFadmin and the password MSFadmin again. Okay, I'm successfully logged in. So let me just check for the IP address 𝐹config. So as you can see right now, it's connected to Ethernet. It doesn't have a proper IP address, right? As you can see in the second line under eth0 network card. So we'll have to assign IP address, which is in the same range as that of Kali Linux. I'm doing this because as you can see, when I just started Metasploitable 2, I used MSFadmin to log in and same for the password. Here, I actually know the password and username. But anyway, using Kali Linux Medusa tool, we'll be trying to crack for MSFadmin password and username. So let me go back to Kali Linux. Let me maximize the screen and let's check for 𝐹config here as well. So yeah, this has an IP address assigned to it and netmarks is 255.0. Okay, let's go ahead and assign the very next IP address, which is 192.168.1.2 to Metasploitable 2. For that, let's go to Metasploitable 2 again. Here I go. And let me maximize the screen. Okay, I'm using this command to assign an IP address, 𝐹config. And the network card for which I want to assign, let me just, okay, that's right, is eth0. So eth0 and it's 192.168.1.2, which is the very next IP address, or it actually you can say that it falls in the same range as that of Kali Linux. Now subnet or netmask, which is 255.0.0.0, right? And click on enter. It's asking for the password MSFadmin. And let's try 𝐹config again. As you can see right now under eth0 network card, an IP address has been assigned in the same subnet range as that of Kali Linux. Well, I'm just using this for the demo purposes. You can actually download any other kind of different application. You have BWAP, you have DAM vulnerable application, and any other different kind of application. Vulnerable applications which are especially made for penetration testing. And you can go ahead and crack passwords because every application of such sort has a login page, right? So yeah. And here we go back to Kali Linux and let me clear the screen and let's try for Medusa. As you can see, it's pre-installed tool in Kali Linux. So it has a lot of options here. And for today's session, we'll be using mostly 2 or 3. We'll be using -H. It's the target host name or IP address. If you have a set of target IP addresses, then you can use H to specify the list of IP addresses. And if you want to directly mention the username, which is MSFadmin in our case, you can use -u. If you use U, you can just specify the file which contains the list of usernames that Medusa has to test. Same goes for -p, it's for the password, and P for the list of passwords. And one more thing which we'll be using is -m. It's the name of the module that you want to execute. Like for example, Metasploitable 2, it's an SSH connection, right? So as we execute the command, you'll understand the stuff. So before that, Like I said, you can either specify the username directly or you can specify the file name which has a list of usernames. I've already created a list. I have it stored on my desktop. Let me show it to you guys. It says bvap.test here, and let me open the stuff. As you can see right now, I just have 4 names: admin, root, or an MSF admin. So yeah, there's one more command called crunch by Kali Linux. You can use that. It creates a list or it creates a word list for you. So go ahead and explore it. Let me close the file and let's go back to terminal here. Let me clear the screen. I hope you guys remember the commands. If not, it's okay. You can always go for the help command. So Medusa -h, because I want to specify the IP address of the Metasploitable 2. That's 192.168.1.2 if I'm right. Then -u. So let's try with direct username first. MSF admin is a username, right? Then -P. Let's give the capital as in the username, the location, root, it's in my desktop, and bvap.text, then -M, SSH connection, and -N, the port number, which is default 22 for any SSH connections, and click enter. So as you can see, it's right now trying for the all password or different username and password combinations. So it's trying MSF admin with admin, MSF admin with tour, MSF admin with root, and MSF admin finally with MSF admin. So since we have specified the target IP address here, it will do this permutation and combination until it finds the right set of username and password. So let's do the same thing with -u, capital U here. So instead of giving directly the username, let me specify the location. I'm going to specify the same location because MSF admin itself is the username, right? Desktop, and it's bvap.txt. So in the end, if you have any other connection except TCH, you should specifically mention the port here. Otherwise, you don't have to mention it, default. It's going to take a while, actually more than the previous command, because here we actually mentioned the username. So it just had to compare username with 4 passwords. But right now it has to compare each word with each other word. For example, first it compares admin with all the 4 words which are there in the list. Second, it compares root with all the 4 words. Similarly, tour with all the 4 words, and MSF admin with all the 4 words. It does that until it finds an actual match. It's almost done. So yeah, as you can see, it says username is MSF admin and password is MSF admin and success. Here, same thing we got in the previous command as well. So that's it, guys. Let me summarize what we've learned today. You learned what actually a Kali Linux is and how is it better when compared to other Linux distros and why you should use it. Then we saw how to install it, different installation options as well. So while you're installing, if you find any error, please do post them in the comment section. We'll get back to you. After that, we discussed like 4 or 5 different tools, right? If we discussed the Burp Suite, we discussed Medusa just now, and we discussed other 3 tools. So these are just like 5 out of 600 tools that there are. It's a very exciting topic actually. So go ahead and explore. Don't just stop here with 5 tools. Go ahead and explore other different tools. Compare it with other tools on other platforms. So go ahead and explore Kali Linux, guys. It's really exciting. It's actually a really interesting platform to perform penetration testing and ethical hacking. And remember, it's only for the educational purposes. Don't go ahead and do something illegal. So this is it, guys. I hope the session was informative and demo fun. So go ahead and explore, try new things on Kali Linux. And if you face any problem during installation or any step, please do let us know. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you, guys.